On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, we give our pros and cons to Texas and OU's SEC expansion. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. So jump right into this, Dylan. Oklahoma and Texas were the Big 12's first members in 1996, and here we are, and it looks like they are the first to ditch in the recent history. Now, it looks like this move to the SEC will not be official until the 2025-2026 school year, unless Oklahoma and Texas want to pony up a spare change of $75 million. So, I don't have that in my couch cushions, but maybe the Texas athletic department does.
Are you sure you're
Now,
really checking your couch cushions here, Devon? Because I found like a million the other day.
Geez, yeah, maybe I should check a little bit harder. But
Yeah.
Dylan, to this whole situation, what would you say is a pro for Longhorns or for fans?
Well, for the Longhorns, that's a lot more money to be made. I remember looking at a report that the SEC spread out like $600 million, which was almost twice that of what the Big 12 earned last year. So obviously the money aspect is a huge reason why Texas and Oklahoma are doing that. Plus, their brands, they can go wherever they want. They bring that popularity with them. When you look at it for fans, you're no longer looking at Kansas on the schedule with these Big 12 games. I'm just saying, when you're looking at when they get that first SEC schedule, your mouths are going to drop. You're going to see a lot bigger matchups. That every game is it's gonna be a tough one. So as a fan, you got to look forward to the new competition and bigger programs coming into town. And obviously for the athletic department, money talks, Devin. Money talks.
Yeah, I think overall, if you could sum it up, this is a money talks situation. Coincidence, I guess, that NIL happens and now all these schools are starting to move for the money. I think the veil of amateurism has already been lifted, and now we're kind of seeing what the future holds, because I think this will be the beginning for kind of everybody of the end. And as we were talking about couch cushions earlier, yeah, I think Texas and Oklahoma, as you said, found out that the SEC has some bigger couch cushions that they can look through. And you were talking about income. The AP reported that Texas and Oklahoma could go from receiving $34 million per year in the Big 12 to over $60 million potentially in the SEC. Now, guys, that's a pretty sizable jump. That's about double. And the Big 12 was talking about trying to make some concessions to, Texas and Oklahoma, but at that point, the relationship was already pretty sour, and once you already decide to move conferences, you're probably not going to change your mind. I don't know about you there, Dylan, but... And then also, as you said, more exciting contest. We're not getting Texas versus Kansas in football. Now, Kansas did, do something to us a couple of years ago that we don't want to talk about. But, we're going to get some Alabama-Texas matchups. Maybe not every year, but what excites me the most is we got A&M versus Texas most likely going to be coming back. And that was kind of ironic because all you guys know that... Dylan, you can speak to this. A&M was a little scared of Texas. So what do you think of this surprise for the Aggies?
Well, they did vote to allow Texas to join. It was unanimous, so I'm sure that there were some dissenters in the room when they were making up their mind. With the Aggies, it's hilarious because it's like that was their foothold, Devin, when it came to recruiting. Hey, come play with us. You can play in the SEC. You're going to have more eyeballs on you. We are the greatest conference in the country, but now Texas is going to arguably the greatest conference.
Yeah,
couldn't find the word for that in football. So they're losing that foothold in the state. Texas is going to be their recruiting is going to skyrocket more than it already has.
I just like how they were definitely dodging the Longhorns in terms of football and throwing shade every year. But then Chris Del Conte's like, you know what? We're just going to pick up and join your conference. So good luck avoiding that. And then all the rumors of the Aggies potentially leaking the Texas edition and OU to the SEC to try to, I guess, defeat the movement before it became official. But obviously, after the fact, they can't really do anything and they accept it. But I don't know, that's just comedy to me. And then some other pros that we were kind of talking about. Exciting contests in football, obviously, but you got to mention baseball. You got Vanderbilt, who's probably college baseball's biggest powerhouse. Now, I know they didn't win the College World Series last year. It was Mississippi State, though, and that's another SEC school. And then you got Florida. Now, Dylan, let's look to the bad. Not everything is all sunshines and rainbows. What are your cons to this move?
Well, I mean, there's cons to everything when it comes to it, especially the other teams in the conference as well. You see the reports of Fort Worth, Lubbock, Waco losing millions of dollars in money with Texas not coming to town anymore. And I saw a Herb Street quote recently. I don't know if it's damage control by ESPN, but Herb Street comes out and talks about how it's ruining the tradition of sports. You're no longer going to be seeing those games between Texas Tech and Texas and TCU and Baylor. It's not going to have that same feel. And I mean, it's obviously a trickle-down effect with the playoffs expanding to 12 teams. Being in a harder conference is no longer a negative. Now you can make even more money in the regular season while also being able to make it to the college football playoff. So this all stems from this college football playoff, Devon, that they made a while back. So these conference games don't mean as much, and it can suck. As a fan, it's like you look forward to those rivalry games against Texas Tech. I know it doesn't mean anything in the big picture, but it's like, hey, we destroyed Tech, but you're not going to have that anymore. You're only going to have Oklahoma and A&M, and those are good consolation prizes, but it definitely loses that feel, the nostalgia.
Yeah, and if there was someone that was Mr. Nostalgia, that would be me. And I know we'll miss beating up on Tech, and I know that they're going to miss sending us a certain highlight from the mid-2000s with Michael Crabtree in it. But then even schools like Baylor were fun to play against, as you were saying. I mean, they're a very small school in the whole scheme of things, but I mean, they proved their talent, obviously, this past season in basketball. And then TCU, as you said. But, I mean, even Kansas State and Oklahoma State and all those other schools have something, a certain place in my heart. West Virginia, maybe not as much. They're kind of far out of that. But overall, it's just I'm going to miss those little rivalries that we had going. And it seems like the Longhorns in Oklahoma are going very corporate. But yet again, I think that's just kind of the move of college football in today's landscape.
It's the new landscape.
I can't entirely blame them. And you're a big Big Ten guy, so maybe Big Ten wants to come in and scoop up somebody. What do you think about that?
The only ones they were talking to Iowa State. That would be a good one to grab. Oklahoma State as well. You would want to take the better teams out of the group. I know that there's reports that the AAC is trying to take the remaining 8 teams and move them into their conference. So trickle down effect. Big 12 is probably not going to be the Big 12 anymore, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I could definitely see Big Ten scooping up Iowa State to give Iowa a dance partner.
Yeah.
And I mean, in a dream world for them, if they could get Kansas only for basketball, that would be great because the football team definitely brings it down a bit. But then a con, as we're kind of talking about Kansas, Iowa State, Big 12 basketball was arguably the best conference in basketball. Now, Texas and Oklahoma weren't very prestigious in terms of overall achievements there, but they were always seemingly in the top 25 and maybe creeping up to that top 10. But now, obviously, with them gone, Kansas, what's going to happen to them? I'm going to miss that the most probably. Big 12 basketball was kind of something that always seemed to get overlooked. And then the last con I have, Dylan. Now, I know this might not affect you too much, and maybe not too many people watching this video, but the Longhorn Network, big question mark now. Is it going to exist after this? It's obviously a little difficult situation now that the media rights are probably going to have to be shifted around. I don't know if the LHN can stay alive, and for you diehard Longhorn supporters, that was your best way to watch, Texas volleyball, Texas soccer, Texas baseball, softball, you name the sport, but now with it potentially being gone, it might be a little more difficult to even watch those games. Maybe it comes to ESPN Plus in the future, but what do you guys think about Texas and OU to the SEC? Let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.